Telling someone that they need a $500 peptide protocol or an exotic biomarker gets their attention. It's all hooky. Telling them to walk daily, manage their blood pressure, eat fewer processed foods, that's not exciting, that's not sexy, that does not go viral. And smart, well-intentioned people are just caught in the middle, trying to separate signal from noise. And this confusion is not an accident. It's truly a feature of the current landscape. That's where we are. The biggest problem is chronic disease. You're not doing something today that's going to make you sick tomorrow. The disease process has started years in advance, and you're just seeing the culmination of bad behavior or disturbed behavior from 10 years ago. We can't be operating in short cycles. You can't be like, I feel fine today, therefore nothing is wrong with me.
Welcome to Infinite Health with Dr. Arasi Maran. This show is for people who feel overwhelmed by health advice, not because they don't care, but because there's simply just too much noise. Every week, we're told about a new supplement, a new protocol, a new breakthrough, and yet rates of chronic disease just keep rising. Infinite Health is not about chasing trends or quick fixes. It's about something much quieter and much harder: how to think clearly about health over time. Dr. Maran is an interventional cardiologist, an academic physician, and someone who spends her days making real decisions about risk, prevention, and long-term outcomes. In this first episode, we're starting with the most important question of all. Why does health feel more confusing than ever, and how should we actually be thinking about it? So, Dr. Maran, I'm so excited to be here with you. Let's kick it off. Episode 1 of Infinite Health. How are you feeling today? Are you excited?
Pretty excited. Thank you so much, Leila. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad we are discussing this really complicated but completely relevant topic for the day.
Absolutely. It's definitely relevant. And like I said, every day it just seems like there's more and more trends, new things that we're learning. So this is such an important conversation and so important to shed light on. So let's kind of just start at the beginning. So with all the information that is available today, with podcasts, social media, research headlines, why do you think that people feel more confused about health now than really ever before?
My personal opinion, because the incentives are all wrong. Think about it. Fear sells, novelty sells, complexity sells. Telling someone that they need a $500 peptide protocol or an exotic biomarker panel gets their attention. It's all hooky. Telling them to walk daily, manage their blood pressure, eat fewer processed foods, that's not exciting, that's not sexy, that does not go viral. So we've created an ecosystem where influence matters more than evidence, where the credentials are purely optional, but confidence is everything. And people, smart, well-intentioned people, are just caught in the middle, trying to separate signal from noise. And this confusion is not an accident. It's truly a feature of the current landscape. That's where we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's exactly what you said, the current landscape, and it can be so overwhelming with all the information. And I know you often talk about the importance of long-term thinking in medicine. So what does thinking long actually mean when it comes to health specifically?
So, great questions. The biggest problem is chronic disease, right? These are non-communicable chronic diseases, such as cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, diabetes, etc. They don't appear overnight. You're not doing something today that's going to make you sick tomorrow. The disease process has started years in advance, and you're just seeing the culmination of bad behavior or disturbed behavior from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So your body right now has been shaped by the decisions you made 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So we can't be operating in short cycles. You can't be like, I feel fine today, therefore nothing is wrong with me. That's not the way it is. We have to kind of change in small behaviors over time and think about our cumulative risk so that the 20-year-old self version of yourself in the future thanks you for what you've done today. That's what I mean by thinking long when it comes to your health.
Absolutely. And it's like one of those things you don't know it's a problem until it becomes a problem almost. And then it's something we should have been paying attention to previously. So it is being very intentional about, I might feel fine now, but how is this going to affect me down the line 10 years later?
Absolutely.
That's why people are always saying, I wish I took better care of myself in my 20s, or I can't do the things I used to do. And one day you just start feeling a completely different way that you could have thought about earlier and made those changes ahead of time. And I know that this isn't just theoretical for you, right? So can you maybe share a moment that you've had in training or in practice when you realized that short-term medicine just wasn't enough?
Once again, fantastic question. As an interventional cardiologist, the reason I became an interventional cardiologist is because of instant gratification.
Mhm.
Someone comes with a heart attack, you put a stent in, and the heart attack, you've controlled or even prevented the heart attack, and you feel like a hero, like, a true rock star, saved the day, etc. So, and I love what I do, and I love being at the cath lab. That's like, my Zen place in life. But then, after doing enough and more of it and seeing younger patients show up to my cath table, I'm like, what is happening here? What has gone wrong? When I was in training, my patients are 70, 80 years old, and rarely we'll get a 50-year-old patient, and that'll be like a big thing. Oh my God, there's a 50-year-old having a heart attack. Now, 20 years into practice, 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds is the norm. And I'm getting 30-year-olds and early 40-year-olds on the cath table. So the entire timeline has shifted towards younger people. And this particular moment is a 44-year-old having a heart attack, ST elevation MI, like an acute heart attack. You come to the emergency room with crushing chest pain. He gets an ECG done. The ECG shows really bad abnormalities, and immediately the cath lab gets activated. We have a metric called door to balloon time that within 90 minutes of the patient showing up to the emergency room, you want to open the blood vessel. So everything is moving in super fast speed. So we go open the blood vessel, put a stent in, we are all high-fiving each other, etc. Then I'm going to tell the patient, hey, I'm so sorry you've suffered a heart attack. It was a life-threatening heart attack. Your widowmaker or the front wall blood vessel was blocked. We fixed it. We've opened the blood vessel. You're all good. And then he goes, oh my God, how did this happen to me? And I'm like, it's a great question. Why did this happen to you? Then I go deep dive into his electronic medical records. And then this patient, who's 42 years old, has been diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 31. Okay. But how frequently has he seen the doctor? He hasn't seen a doctor in the past 5 years. His medicines, when he was diagnosed, he was started on a bunch of meds, but he's never followed up with them. And he pretty much came into the emergency room not taking any medications. His blood sugar was sky high. His blood was more like maple syrup than blood itself. So it felt like, yes, I'm doing fun, cool, techie things in the cath lab, but I'm just applying a very glorified band-aid to the problem, and I'm not doing much to solving the problem. So
Mhm.
that's when the shift in my mindset happened, that I need to go outside the cath lab and talk about prevention or managing chronic diseases better so that you don't end up on my cath table.
Right, especially at such a young age too. And
Yes.
it's something that I hadn't thought about previously until you said this, but it does seem like even someone like myself who's not particularly involved in the medical field directly, but hearing about people having heart attacks much younger, it has just become so much more common. And it's interesting to even think about how did we get here? Like what went wrong, as you said, because it is something we would hear for years. You get a heart attack, you usually would think of a much older person, and it is just happening younger and younger. I even know people in my age demographic that I've heard of getting heart attacks, and it's just so jarring almost because it's something you don't think about. It's almost that it can happen to me mentality. And so, it can, you know what I mean? And I think that there's also a huge cultural focus right now on longevity. Everyone seems to be talking about longevity now too. A lot of shows, we do a lot of shows on longevity as well. But the focus on longevity and biohacks and supplements, extreme protocols. What concerns you most about how longevity is being talked about today? It's everywhere.
Yes. So that I'm sorry for the eye roll, but longevity term is almost chokes me right now. So prevention, old wine in a new bottle of longevity is what's happening right now. As a cardiologist, I have been doing prevention for a long time. Primary prevention, secondary prevention, tertiary prevention, name it, and we've been talking about it. Okay. They've just rewrapped prevention in the shiny new paper and selling it as longevity. And biohacks, what biohacks? Where is the science behind biohacks? Where's the evidence behind biohacks? All these N=1 experiments are anecdotal stories, and there is literally, no sense to what is being done here. But the actual stuff we know, managing your blood pressure, controlling your cholesterol, managing your risk factors, quitting smoking, taking care of your sleep, having a good sleep hygiene, all that seems to have forgotten. And you think you can have a bad behavior and biohack your way into longevity. That's not going to work. It's just not going to work. There's a saying, right? You can never outrun your donut. That's what this is. You can't biohack yourself from bad behavior. You have to start from scratch and build every foundational step. Otherwise, the whole building is going to collapse.
Mhm. No, it makes so much sense. And everyone thinks that there's like that quick fix, right? That one thing, oh, I'm going to take this supplement and I'm going to be healthier and feel better. And you have to start from scratch. You have to really think about it in a long term. Not one quick fix is not going to fix everything, but there
You
is
know,
idea.
you're absolutely right. I think each person, each individual needs to be their own Sherlock Holmes. Okay, what are all the things wrong with me? What are the problems I'm having? How can I problem solve them? If I have a bad habit, I mean, if I love to eat popcorn and I'm eating buckets of popcorn, why am I eating popcorn? What am I trying to fill the space? You need to be your own detective and kind of, do a lot of introspection. But before all that, you need to want to be healthy and stay healthy. And that's something you need to fight for. When we are born, most of us are born healthy. We might have some genetic factors which we can't modify, but we have a lot of factors which we can modify. Unfortunately, 20s and 30s, we take life too much for granted. We think we are immortal, we are Superman and we are Thor and nothing bad can happen to us or something like that, and abuse our body, push it to the limit, and think we can biohack ourselves from the problems of 40s and 50s.
Absolutely. It's that mentality of, oh, that's later on. It's not a concern now. It can't be me kind of mentality. But I'm
Yes.
taking notes for myself right now. I feel like you're directly telling me this. I need to listen to this. But it's true. You push things off because you just think it doesn't matter. Everything's always going to be okay. But you really have to be your own detective. I like that because you know what you're doing. No one knows what
Absolutely.
you're,
Yeah.
like you said, be introspective, really have that real conversation about yourself. But what are your habits? What are your bad habits? And really, really be on point. I'm going through a list of my own right now. If someone does want, better long-term health, I think we all really do want that, whether we're thinking about it or not, right? But if someone does want better long-term health, what actually matters most? And What do people really spend way too much time worrying about?
Um, People worry too much about death. Okay. Death. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I have to live long. I have to live till 105, 110, etc.
Hmm.
Okay. But would you want a life where you're bedbound, you're stroked out, you have no control of your bodily functions, but you're living till 104 or 105?
Hmm.
That's not how you want. You want a quality of life. You want to be able to do things. You want to have fun experiences. You want joy in your life. Okay, you want to have a challenge, overcome the challenge, enjoy the endorphins which comes from overcoming the challenge in life. Okay, so you want to live long, but you want to be healthy. And what does healthy mean? It's not micromanaging. It's not an Excel spreadsheet of this number, this number, this number, this number. It's a big picture. We are right now too close to the tree that we are completely missing the magic of how beautiful the forest of life is.
Hmm.
That's what we are going. If there's one thing we should focus on is mobility and being able to get up and do whatever you want and do it without pain and do it with joy.
Hmm.
If you compare two people, let's say someone who has a very strong family history of heart disease, father, grandfather, uncle, all had heart attacks at 40, had bypass surgeries in their 40s and 50s, or even died before their 55th birthday. Okay. And you're born with that genetic makeup. Okay. You can't change all that, right? But if you are an exercising person, and you're a non-smoking person, and you have watched your diet and you've managed your cholesterol and your blood pressure, you can't escape your genetics. So you may get a heart attack, but you might get a teeny tiny heart attack, which is like a little, flicker. Okay, you just went to the hospital and you either just get treated with medications or you get a stent, versus you drop dead and you pass out and you don't wake up. If you were not controlling all that and you were a couch potato, you were smoking heavily, you were drinking heavily, your numbers are all way through the roof. You die in your sleep, or you pass out and you pass out behind the wheel and cause a car crash and kill another family along with your own demise. Both can happen. So you can't control the genetics, but you can control what you can do with the things which you can control. And that's what, prevention or longevity science or all, whatever fancy name you want to call it, that's what this is about.
Absolutely. That's such a good point too, because there's so much you can't control. And not everyone is born healthy, to say. So most people are, but there's people that can't control things that they wish they could. For, like you said, mobility. Some people are immobile and they can't control these things. So it's, if you're controlled to do better and be healthy, especially like you said, you may have a genetic makeup that can lead to issues, to really be on top of yourself and control what you can, because there's not everything in life you can control, but if you can control it, it's important to really think that way. And I'm I'm taking all the notes for myself again.
See, there are two types of people, right? Some
Hmm.
people, they're like an ostrich. They put their head into the sand and think the whole body is covered. They completely ignore their health. Okay. Then
Right.
the other group of people who are micromanaging their health and are so stressed out about being healthy, being biohacking this, biohacking that, whatever, counting everything, tracking everything, and not living their life. And now going into this realm of non-evidence-based medicine,
Uh,
taking a million supplements, overloading their livers and kidneys, and and harming themselves in a way which we ourselves don't know what they're doing, because they're just inflaming their body, because there's only so much of metabolic processes the body can do. When you overwhelm it, that ultimately causes inflammation, and inflammation results in plaque within the blood vessels of the brain or within the blood vessels of the heart, whichever you call it. So there is a middle path. The problem with the middle path is it's a boring path. It's a unsexy path. It's an unglamorous path. But that path can lead to a good quality of life and a good quantity of life. That's the
mhm.
hard truth here.
one podcast I listened to recently said longevity, it can be boring. It can be boring, but it's the safest route. It gives you more to do. It gives, like, being boring or just being in that middle, it actually allows you to do so many things that are not boring. So
Yes.
really finding that balance of just maintaining that standard in the middle, boring path, right?
Yes.
And speaking about prevention, being that you work in prevention, which often means helping people before anything feels wrong. But why is that so hard for people to understand, and why is it so critical?
So you can't, there's a saying, right? The eye does not see what the mind does not know.
Mm,
And most of the times, this is all building inside of you, and you really don't see it. If it's a growth, if it's an obvious cancer, you can see it and you can go take care of it. But you don't know the slow buildup of LDL cholesterol inside of you. The plaque is building inside you. The calcium is building inside you. Your blood sugar is rising. You don't see it. And your body is built for resilience, it's built for survival. So the tipping point of the human body is very high. You really have to push it to an extreme for it to tip over. And because the point is so high, they're like, oh, I'll keep doing it till I have to stop. And for some people, it tips them over and they fall off the cliff. That's the sad part here, right? So as I said, if you are in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and you've never been to the gym, you've never gone on a brisk walk, you've never checked your blood pressures, you don't know what your lipids are, you have no idea about your overall health, then you really have put, like that ostrich, you've put your head under the sand and you think your whole body is covered. You're hiding from your enemy. So you want to stay healthy. That's what, right? Why does anyone want to do anything? There is a big why. And if you haven't answered that why for yourself, you're not going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and find time before a busy day of work to exercise. You're not going to quit smoking. I mean, you need a why. And that why can be something as simple as I want to be good and I want to feel good, or it can be something more dramatic as I saw my parents suffer and I don't want my children to go through that suffering, and therefore I want to do it. So you have to fight for your health. You've been given the gift of health when you're born, but to stay healthy, it's a fight. And like, when you start a new project, let's say you have, you've been in startups. So when there's a new project, how you're only thinking about that project,
mhm.
that's your fight for your health. You have to be like 5 o'clock, I'm getting ready. And I'm not saying you have to live like that and live like a machine. Have a day where you do nothing. But the following day, you're getting back to your routine. And that's the boring part of it.
The routine. Everyone has a different routine, but that routine is what will keep you consistent. Well,
Yes,
consistency at the end of.
consistency is the key. That's the winner here.
Mhm. And the why. I really like that because it just clicks so well, because you have to really think about what is the why, what is the purpose, why do I want to feel good? Why do I want to make these decisions? And you really have to, like you said, be your own detective, right?
Yeah,
Figure out that
absolutely.
why as well. And I think that there's a lot of debate about lifestyle versus medication, right? So, from your perspective, how should people actually really think about that decision and, without ideology?
Yeah, let's not get into ideology at all. If you can't change your lifestyle, medications can help you, but they can't fix you. For any physician, I'm an interventional cardiologist. I make my living by putting stents in people. But if I can rather take care of you without an invasive procedure, that's the best for the patient. And that's how we need to look at it. So, the first time you get a diagnosis of high blood pressure or high cholesterol, unless it's absolutely ridiculously life threateningly high, the first intervention is changing your lifestyle.
Mhm.
But this is such a broad term. Okay. We just, most physicians or healthcare providers would be like, you need to change your diet and exercise. That's all they have the time for. They have to move on to the next patient. So, what does that mean? What does changing your diet, changing your lifestyle, what does that mean? Okay, that is where the money lies. That's the money pieces is the lifestyle changes. It's very simple. Eat real food, not something which looks like something else. If you're eating whole grains, eat quinoa as quinoa is. Don't eat quinoa made bread. That doesn't look like the real thing. If you are eating carrots, eat carrots. Don't go eat veggie chips and think you're eating vegetables. If you want to eat protein, eat chicken as is, or turkey as is, or steak as is, as fish as is. Don't go for hot dogs or bacon or something where it's been processed and goes through multiple iterations by the time it comes to your plate. Because every time there's a chemical alteration that's not real to your, it's not recognized as natural to your body, natural to your epigenetics, like what you've evolutionarily been exposed to, your body has to work harder. Like, I have teenagers who don't listen to me at all. And they have to go through their own process. And I see them dumping Mountain Dews and everything, and my blood boils, right? Nothing in those drinks is real. If you want to hydrate yourself, just water with a little bit of a salt is good enough for you. Or just plain water is good enough for you. You don't need the fancy electrolyte packets and powders and potions. And, just get back to basics and simplify life. You don't need an expensive coach. You don't need an expensive nutritionist or exercise personal trainer to get healthy. You just have to sit down and kind of take audit of your life, all the just what all the things you have put in your mouth every day. Don't look at it. Just audit it for 1 week. And at the end of 1 week, go back and read it. You will know the red flags automatically and just, scratch out one red flag at a time. Fix your breakfast for 1 week. Fix your lunch for 1 week. Fix your dinner for 1 week. And then and it's slowly and steadily over the course of 3 to 4 weeks, you're eating better. Start just with 5 minutes of exercise, some movement, find a partner, sign up for a 5K or something with a friend. Small things. That's lifestyle. And if you're doing all of this, but you're doom scrolling till 2 a.m. and waking up at 6 a.m. and pounding your body with caffeine to get through all of this day, but eating a very glorious lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, done. Or you're doing all of this and you're like just smoking just one cigarette or 2 puffs of vape and nicotine or marijuana or whatever your poison is. You've muddled up all the water. Little poison, lots of poison is nevertheless poison, and it will eventually kill you. So it's small measures, and you can do it all by yourself. You can join a coaching group. That's fine. Whatever works for you. Some people, don't like to be told. They like to go figure it out by themselves. You can figure it out by yourself. As long as you're accountable and you measure the metrics you want to change and go by that.
Right. Like you said, do that introspective work and really think about it. I think writing everything down is such a good idea too, because especially life is busy, people are busy, you have these habits that you don't even really think about. It's second nature to be doing these things. And until you really write it down and think it out, you probably won't even realize how many bad habits you may even truly have. And so you actually are super intentional about it. But I think those little swaps or those little fixes, even if it's 1 or 2 things in a day, over time will be a completely different lifestyle.
I mean, the simplest thing, don't park right outside your building. Park 2 or 3 blocks away. And that could be your morning and evening walk and, to and from your car. And if you get a lunch break, Don't, chat with your friends. Instead, walk around the block. You've just incorporated extra movement in your day without sweating it out, without like changing your whole day itself. And also don't go to the extreme and be out about it, right? Just take it easy. Give yourself good intentional breaks and give yourself grace if you slip down and fall forward and you've gone back on a bad habit. How long did it take us for us to potty train? How long did it take us to, learn to walk? And how many times would we have fallen? Our parents did not give up on us and, carry us around or push us in strollers. They let us fall, get up, and try again till we perfected it. So just you have to fight for it. You want it badly enough to make changes for it.
Absolutely. And that's your why. You have to want to fight for it. Why do you want to fight for it? And speaking about that, and with Infinite Health, with this podcast, who do you have in mind when you created Infinite Health? Who really should be listening? And what do you really hope listeners and people walk away with from this show?
That you don't need expensive potions and lotions and whatever is sold out there. You can do it all by yourself. But if you need some help, help is available. This is for anyone in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s to want to empower themselves with real science, real evidence based, time tested things which actually makes them better. This is not just for people who've never had a heart attack or a health problem. It's also for people, I've had a heart attack, but I don't want my second heart attack. I've had a stroke. I don't want my second stroke to happen. It's for them too. How can they improve their life? How can they improve their health? Or make them, how do I put it? Make them healthier without biohacking, with real science and evidence.
Back to basics, like you said. And I love
Back
the
to
way
basics.
that you simplified it, because some people, let's say, want to start being healthy. They want to go on this health journey. I think it's natural for people to automatically think, I need to go get this supplement, and I need to go get a trainer, and I need to go get all like new clothes and all these things that we kind of put in our minds that prevents us from doing things, because now we're overwhelmed with the thought of having to do all these things to get started. Starting is already hard.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
simplifying it, like you said, water, just the back to basics, the easiest things. You want to eat a carrot, those things, all these little things, like you said, that it seems almost obvious in a way, but it's not. And so you really hear someone say it, because especially the way that we are as a society, so much overconsumption. There's so many things that we tell ourselves. There's so much noise, like we were talking about earlier, with needing to start. I have to go get this, these supplements, all these things. When go on a brisk walk, like you said, have
Yes.
water. You don't need to, do all these extra things. So I think that the way you simplified it is very like powerful. I feel a lot of people will hear that well, receive that well.
I mean, I think the bottom line is infinite health is achievable, and it's not a super expensive 200,000 per year expenditure for you to be healthy, stay healthy, and prevent that first heart attack or the second heart attack or the third heart attack from happening. It is achievable by very simple measures.
Absolutely. And for your quality of life, I think that's a great why as it is too. Just
Yeah,
you want a better quality of life. Like you said, no one wants to live to 102, 103 and not have a good quality of life. So making these little changes to really improve your overall health and your overall life, and how that can affect other people in your life as well. If you're healthy, you're a good version of yourself for everyone around you too. So it's also bigger than just you in a way. So I think that that's
absolutely.
important.
I mean, can you imagine the trauma of a child who loses their father in their 40s or 50s? That becomes their life story. I lost my parent. Okay, that trauma lives with them forever. And it need not be, just for your child. I always say, if someone had a gun to your child's head and say, quit smoking, if you don't smoke, or if you ever touch a cigarette, this your child is going to get shot or something. You will never touch a cigarette, right? But why can't you say that, look at yourself and say, your health is important and you need to stay alive, and therefore you should quit smoking.
hmm
you
That's
know
the fight. You have to fight for your health, like you
you
said. The
have to
fight is
fight for
yours.
it.
That's exactly it. I think that this is exactly why the show is called Infinite Health, right? And it's not because health is limitless, but because good decisions compounds. All these little habits, all these little decisions we spoke about. And the show isn't about doing more. It's about just thinking better, calmly, clearly, and over the long run. I know I had a whole mindset shift during this episode, so I'm excited for the episodes to come for sure. And if this episode had resonated with you like it did to me, subscribe, follow, share it with someone who feels overwhelmed by health advice. Let them think about their why. That inspired me. I'm going to be thinking about that saying all day today. And thank you so much for setting the foundation for Infinite Health. I think this was a great first episode, and I can't wait for the future episodes to come.
Thank you so much, Leila.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.